Chapter 2041. As soon as these words came out, Su Jiao's face turned pale. Father Su and Mother Su were originally furious, but when they saw their daughter's guilty expression, their hearts tightened. Could it be that there really was something they didn't know about? After all, Father Su was someone who had been in the business world for a long time, and his ability to read people's expressions was not ordinary. Seeing this, he said calmly, "Police officers, I think it's better for us to talk somewhere else." After he finished speaking, he glanced around. Because of the change here, Yingda's school gate was already surrounded by many students who were watching the fun. The police officers didn't want to be too conspicuous, so they quickly nodded. Father Su called Su Jiao's class teacher, and the teachers of Zhang Jiajia and the others also rushed over, and everyone went to the school's dispute room. Originally, Gu Shengyin was going to be taken by Mother Su, but she suddenly stood up straight and wiped away her tears. "Mom, I have an appointment with my classmate, so I won't go with you," she whispered. Mother Su instinctively wanted to refuse to let her eldest daughter go with her, but she looked at her daughter's obviously red and swollen eyes, and the words came to her mouth, "Then be careful on the road." Gu Shengyin nodded, confessed to Father Su, and pulled Tianmi out of the door. She didn't look at Su Jiao the whole time. Su Jiao frowned at her sister, and there was a faint uneasiness in her heart. She didn't know why, but she always felt like she had lost something. Gu Shengyin walked absent-mindedly along the way. Tianmi thought she was still sad, and comforted her. "Yen Yen, don't be sad, let's go. Your sister Mimi will invite you and milk tea." Gu Shengyin smiled at her. "Actually, I can figure it out, but I'm a little sad." Tianmi also fell silent. Anyone would be sad about this. She was afraid to bring up Gu Shengyin's sad memories, and deliberately didn't dare to mention Su Jiao's matter, but who knew that Gu Shengyin would talk about it herself. "Ever since I was young, I've always thought of her and gave in to her in everything. I even doted on her more than my parents. I thought she liked me too, because we are the closest sisters, but Mimi, did you see that? She hates me." When Gu Shengyin said this, a trace of pain flashed through her clear eyes. The pain was real. It originated from an elder sister who was hurt by her own younger sister. What could Tianmi say? She could only pat her friend on the shoulder. Everyone will grow up and have their own thoughts. "Yen Yen, take it easy." Gu Shengyin shook her head. "That's not what I can't stand the most." She looked at Tianmi, her eyes filled with sadness. "Did you see Yao Yao's reaction just now? She was feeling guilty. Those girls said those things about her. I called the police and told Dad and Mom, but she didn't feel angry. Instead, she felt guilty." Why would he feel guilty? Both of them knew what was hidden within. Gu Shengyin looked a little absent-minded. "I can't stand it at all. The girl who loved to act coquettishly and call me sister since childhood will become a slutty vixen in others' eyes." The disappointment and sadness coming from this body were so real. Such a big reaction was because Su Jian was a person with emotional cleanliness. Her character was completely different from that of her younger sister, Su Jiao. She could understand those who wantonly lived their lives, but she didn't want to have more contact with such people. However, in the original plot, Su Jian, who was vaguely aware of something, chose to deceive herself and let her feelings for her younger sister take the upper hand until she died. But now Gu Shengyin was unwilling to forgive her. Chapter 2042. When Xiao Cheng drove to a pharmacy to buy anti-inflammatory medicine, he inadvertently looked up and saw two girls in Jisua school uniforms standing on the side of the road. One of them had her back to him, so he couldn't see clearly. The other girl was wearing a close-fitting school skirt that showed off her tall and slender figure. Her face was still a little young, but she already had a beautiful face. Thanks to his strong eyesight, Xiao Cheng could still see the girl's red and swollen eyes from such a distance. "She's crying?" For some reason, Xiao Cheng's heart suddenly twitched faintly. This feeling was both heartache and anger. Why is she crying? Who offended her? Xiao Cheng thought for a while, then suddenly reacted. Who is this girl? Why would I have such strange emotions towards a stranger? By the time he reacted, the two girls had already disappeared without a trace. He was left alone, feeling lost. That night, Gu Shengyin ate dinner alone. The auntie at home was a little worried, but Gu Shengyin knew that most likely the Su parents already knew about Su Xiao's matter, and it was probably very chaotic over there. She slowly finished her dinner and walked in the garden for a while to digest her food before returning to her room to take a shower and change clothes to rest. A good night's sleep. The next day, when Gu Shengyin woke up in the morning, she was not surprised to see the family of three, who didn't look too good. Among them, Su Xiao's eyes were red and swollen, as if she had cried hard last night. She said good morning to her parents, then quietly began to eat. Mother Su looked at her eldest daughter as if she didn't see her younger daughter, and felt very uncomfortable. But she didn't blame Gu Shengyin at all. Yesterday afternoon, the two of them had come back from Yingde High School after figuring out everything that had happened. It was just that the truth of the matter was really hard for the husband and wife to accept. In this world, no parents would be able to tolerate their 16-year-old daughter having sex with several boys at such a young age. Especially since there was no deception or coercion involved. She was willing. God knows, when Mother Su heard the news, she almost fainted. For a moment, she looked at Su Xiao and actually felt a sense of hatred. How could she be like this? How could she be like this? Yen. Mama Su hesitated for a moment before saying, "Your father and I have already found a new school for your sister. It's an international school in Imperial Capital, and the management is stricter. She might only come back once a month." She was afraid that her eldest daughter would be reluctant to part with him. Both she and her husband knew how deep Yanyan's feelings for their youngest daughter were. Gu Shengyin just lowered her eyes when she heard this. Did he mean that his reputation in Xia City was ruined, so he could only send him to other places? When she heard this, she only gave a faint mm, and did not express anything else. Mama Su and Papa Su looked at each other, seeing the sigh and melancholy in each other's eyes. It seemed that Yan was really angry with her younger sister this time. Su Xiao glanced at Gu Shengyin. She was angry too. If Su Jian hadn't come looking for her at school, or if she hadn't taken the initiative to call the police, she wouldn't have been in this situation. Last night, she had cried for a long time and begged her parents to change their mind, but this time, her parents, who had always doted on her, had steeled their hearts. They ignored their youngest daughter's cries and said firmly that this time, there was no room for discussion. Chapter 2043. Su Xiao's heart was filled with resentment towards Gu Shengyin. She thought to herself, "You're ignoring me, but I don't want to talk to you either." Only the parents of both sides looked at their two daughters with some worry. No parents wanted to see their two children have a bad relationship, especially Su Xiao. They only had one pair of daughters, and they hoped that after they passed away, the sisters would be able to look out for each other, and not cut each other off. In the evening, Mama Su went to Gu Shengyin's room. Gu Shengyin was sitting on the bed reading a book, and was a little surprised to see her mother come in. As a mother who respected her children's privacy and free space, Mama Su rarely took the initiative to visit her children's rooms. "Mom." Mama Su looked at her eldest daughter and called out to her. Gu Shengyin looked at her in confusion. Under the gentle but not glaring light in the room, Mama Su felt that her eldest daughter's eyes were so clear that they seemed to be shining. She sighed. Yan, we've already booked a flight for Yao Yao tomorrow morning." After she said that, she saw the light in her eldest daughter's eyes go out. She said gloomily, "Oh." Her attitude was clear. She didn't want to talk about it. Mama Su saw that and felt a little embarrassed. She knew very well that her eldest daughter was the one who had been wronged in this matter. But as a mother, she still hoped that her two daughters could reconcile. So she said, Yan, don't blame your sister, okay?" Gu Shengyin closed her book and didn't say anything. Mama Su looked at her daughter patiently. She knew her eldest daughter's temperament. No matter what the answer was, she wasn't someone who would use avoidance and silence to solve a problem. Sure enough, as if she was sorting out her words, Gu Shengyin paused for a while before she spoke. "Mom, I'm actually very tired." Mama Su's eyes widened. "Since I was little, I've always thought of myself as the older sister, so I should be good to Su Jiao. Whenever I got something, I would leave the best for her. Whenever I saw something new, I would definitely take her to see it. When something happened, I would stand in front of her. Just like this time, when I thought she was being bullied, I didn't even think about it and wanted to stand up for her. Gu Shengyin raised her head and looked into her mother's eyes. People's hearts are made of flesh. For so many years, even if we were strangers, not to mention that we're sisters of the same mother. If she had thought of me and thought of my good points, she would not have said such heart-wrenching words to me. At this point, she suddenly laughed softly. Mom, after all these years, are you used to it? Do you think that since I'm the elder sister, it's only right for me to give in to Su Jiao? Mama Su was speechless. She had always prided herself on being fair. It was only when her eldest daughter laid everything out that she suddenly realized that she and her husband had long been unfair in their hearts. Yen Yen was only a few minutes older than Yao Yao. Since when did they think that Yen Yen should give in to Yao Yao? Just because she was sensible, she should be at a disadvantage? Gu Shengyin sighed as she spoke. She gently lowered her head, and the curve of her neck was unusually fragile. There was a trace of imperceptible grievance in her tone. Sometimes, I also wish that after I get into trouble without any scruples, there will be someone who will pamper and protect me. Today's update was completed. Speaking of which, this week, there was an official subscription fan feedback event. If you have more than 5,000 fans, and 10,000 fans, you can join Gao Lengji's VIP group and welfare group, respectively. There will be a big red packet on Saturday. For details, please see the top post in QQ's book review section. Chapter 2044. Mrs. Su's heart shook. Her eldest daughter's soft words were like a soft knife, slowly but surely grinding into the softest part of her heart. Such unbearable pain made it impossible for her to escape. She couldn't help but reach out and put her arm around her daughter's shoulders. Gu Shengyin felt her mother's body tremble slightly. But it wasn't enough. She curved her eyes and said softly but cruelly, "Mom, I don't want to talk to her anymore. I don't like her anymore." She clearly felt her mother's body tremble violently, but she closed her eyes and didn't say another word. Mrs. Su's eyes were red when she came out of her eldest daughter's room. She then went to her younger daughter's room. Su Jiao's room was very messy. Her clothes and shoes were scattered all over the bed and floor. She had always been resistant to her parents' decision, and naturally didn't want to clean up. Mrs. Su frowned when she saw the scene. She was a woman who liked to be clean and tidy, and the style of the room clearly didn't make her happy. But now wasn't the time to be concerned about that. Mrs. Su took a look and planned to have the housekeeper come over later to clean up. "Yao Yao," she called out to her daughter, who was sitting on the bed hugging her knees. Su Jiao was full of resentment. She didn't want to leave Xia City, didn't want to go to the capital where she didn't even know her friends. In Su Jiao's eyes, her parents made such a decision because they despised her. She was abandoned. Because they had a better daughter in Su Jian. Mrs. Su's arrival brought her a last glimmer of hope. "Mom." Her eyes lit up. Su Jiao got off the bed and took her mother's hand, her eyes full of hope. "Can you tell Dad not to send me to the capital? I miss you. I don't want to go there. I can't bear to part with you." Her delicate features and the way she pouted her lips and acted coquettishly could make most people lose control. What's more, the person she was acting coquettishly with was her own mother. Su Jiao's coquettishness had always worked on Mrs. Su. She thought that as long as her soft-hearted mother was persuaded, then her chances of persuading her father would increase infinitely. Her father had always been strict with his children, but was incomparably gentle and indulgent with his wife. Su Jiao's plan was perfect, but she miscalculated this time. Her mother looked at her helplessly. "Yao Yao, your father and I made the decision to send you to the capital this time. Mama can't indulge you anymore." Su Jiao could tell from her eyes that there was no turning back for this matter. She snorted and unhappily let go of her mother's hand. She angrily sat on the bed again with a look that said, "I'm very unhappy. Don't bother me." Mother Su wanted to say something when she saw her daughter like this, but hesitated. She stood there for a while, and Su Jiao never looked back. After a while, Su Jiao said in a muffled voice, "Then why did Mom come here?" "Yao Yao, you should apologize to your sister before you go to the capital," said Mrs. Su in a gentle voice. Su Jiao suddenly turned her head. She didn't expect that her mother would come looking for her in the middle of the night not to console her, but to ask her to apologize to Su Jian. On what basis? If it weren't for her, he wouldn't have fallen to the point where he couldn't even stay in Xia City, where he grew up. She didn't want to. She didn't say anything, but her expression and attitude clearly expressed her refusal. Chapter 2045. Mother Su's expression was one of obvious disappointment. Seeing Yao Yao being so willful and insensible, she once again reflected on the way she had educated her child. It was undoubtedly a failure. Yao Yao. When she spoke again, her mother's voice had become stern. Su Jiao jumped in fright. In all her memories of being sensible, her mother had always played the role of a loving mother. She rarely spoke to her with such a stern expression. Mother Su said word by word, "Go apologize to your sister. You've gone too far this time. You've hurt her." Su Jiao had always been a rebellious person to the bone. Otherwise, she wouldn't have played so crazily in school. It was just that when she was at home, she had hidden her rebellious nature. Because she knew what kind of appearance could get more love from her parents. But now that she was going to be sent to the capital, Su Jiao didn't want to hold back her temper at all. "I won't." She stood up in annoyance and turned her head. Mother Su clearly saw that when her younger daughter mentioned her sister, her face was full of disgust and impatience. "What did I hurt her in?" Su Jiao was indignant. "She's always doing this and that in the name of what's good for me. When did I say I wanted it? Did I beg her to care for me? You always say that Su Jian is obedient and sensible. I think she's doing it on purpose. She hasn't given up anything at all, but in everyone's eyes, she's that obedient and well-behaved daughter. I'm not going to apologize to her. I hate Su Jian. I don't want to see her at all," Su Jiao said loudly. Mother Su trembled with anger. She found it hard to believe that Su Jiao would say such cold words. Yen Yen was so good to her. They had seen it all since they were young. As the person involved, could she really not feel it? There had never been a time when Mother Su so clearly felt her eldest daughter's feelings when she said those words. She should have felt her younger sister's attitude, right? That was why she was so sad and said, "I don't like her any more," in a fit of pique. Su Jiao, when you say this, touch your own conscience. How could I have given birth to such a heartless thing like you? Mother Su was furious. Su Jiao was now a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. She straightened her neck and retorted, "Yes, that's right, I'm heartless, an ingrate. It's fine as long as you have your obedient daughter, Su Jian. Throw me to the capital and let me fend for myself." Mother Su was so angry that she couldn't speak, and the mother and daughter parted on bad terms. The next day, Gu Shengyin went to class as usual. When Mother Su asked her for her opinion for the last time, she refused to send Su Jiao off. She wanted to cut off all ties with Su Jiao. Su Jiao, on the other hand, was stunned when she saw that Su Jian was so heartless as to not send her off. She was in disbelief. From what she knew, no matter what trouble she got into, even if she made Su Jian the scapegoat and angered her, she would get over it quickly and would not blame her at all. In Su Jiao's heart, Su Jian was the kind of person who didn't have a temper at all. No matter how you provoked her, she wouldn't get angry. She thought that it would be the same this time, that Su Jian would take the initiative to make up with her. At that time, Su Jiao still didn't understand that all tolerance and forgiveness was built on the basis that the other party loved you. Chapter 2046. Su Jian liked her sister from the same mother and loved her dearly, so she could forgive her no matter what. But what if this originally unequal relationship lost the support of family love one day? Su Jian had already chosen to give up, and Su Jiao was still ignorant. She still didn't realize that she had already lost the most precious relationship in the world. At this time, Su Jiao just looked back angrily before boarding the plane, but she still didn't see that familiar figure. She turned back and said to herself, "Su Jian, I won't forgive you." Gu Shengyin was quietly doing exercises in the classroom. She received a reminder from the system that Su Jiao had already boarded the plane to the capital. Gently exhaling, Gu Shengyin had a relaxed smile on her face. "Mimi, let's go for milk tea after school today?" She should have gone last time, but the matter with Su Jiao had ruined her mood. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Su Jian had already entered the second year of high school, and Su Jiao had also gone to the capital for a year. In the first few months, she came back once a month. Later on, she gradually stopped coming back during the monthly holidays. She would only come back once during the long holidays. Gu Shengyin knew that a person like Su Jiao would be able to live well no matter where she was. When she was free, she would pay attention to Su Jiao's whereabouts. The high school she went to was chosen by Su Jiao's parents after a long time, and the management was very strict. At least, Su Jiao couldn't mess around in that kind of place. However, a cat that wanted to steal fish couldn't be caged in a cage. In addition to being in a bad mood for the first month, Su Jiao confirmed her relationship with the school hunk in the same grade in the second month. But due to the school's strict regulation of puppy love, the two could only be sneaky and didn't dare to expose themselves in front of others. Su Jiao's parents, who had been paying attention to their daughter's situation, thought that their daughter had finally learned well and were relieved. But in reality, Su Jiao and her new boyfriend were having fun in the school's Grove Lounge. During the free time during the holidays, they even went out to bars and had one-night stands with good men. This was a new trick that Su Jiao had recently fallen in love with. In her opinion, this kind of game where both parties were willing to go their separate ways after sleeping together was really novel and exciting, and she didn't have to take responsibility for it. The two parents could clearly see that the relationship between the two children at home had dropped to the freezing point. Jaeyu's eldest daughter, who had always been gentle and understanding, seemed to have been hurt badly a year ago and refused to forgive her younger sister. Even if Su Jiao took the initiative to talk to her, Gu Shengyin just coldly replied with one or two sentences. Her attitude was not much better than that of a stranger. Papa Su and Mama Su had talked to their eldest daughter a few times, but their daughter, who had always been gentle, was unexpectedly persistent this time. "I feel very good now," Gu Shengyin said with a smile, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Su Jiao had always been spoiled. She couldn't do things like stick a warm face to a cold butt. After her goodwill didn't get a response, she was even more dissatisfied. In her words, "Su Jian doesn't want to talk to me, do you think I care?" What Gu Shengyin wanted was for everyone to know that the two daughters of the Su family didn't get along. In the future, no matter what trouble Su Jiao caused, no one would tie her and Su Jiao together. Don't drag others down with you if you want to court death. See you for the rest of the night. Chapter 2047. Yao Yao, it's the holidays tomorrow. Are you willing to? Su Jiao walked forward casually. Beside her, a handsome boy followed eagerly behind her. Su Jiao was already a little impatient. This boy was her boyfriend who she had been dating for more than a year. Su Jiao was already sick of it. It was just that this school was very strict and the ratio of men to women was large. There were very few boys to begin with, and there were even fewer good-looking ones who would cause trouble. In that case, the people around him could be considered to be the best among them. It was also because of this reason that Su Jiao hadn't broken up with him. However, for a woman who pursued novelty and excitement, not changing boyfriends for more than a year was an extremely boring thing. The boy behind her was still saying something, but Su Jiao didn't hear him at all. She looked around the school that she was already familiar with and said indifferently, "No, I told my family that I'm going home during the holidays." The boy was disappointed, but he didn't say anything. Su Jiao wasn't in the mood to care about his feelings. She slowly walked out of the school gate. Every month, the students of this school could only go out of the school gate during the 3 or 4 days of the holidays. This was a nightmare for Su Jiao. She had complained more than once that her family had sent her to prison. Her parents had bought an apartment for her near the school. This was what she had exchanged for with a good attitude and coquettishness after half a year of school. Su Jiao entered her apartment and changed out of her tacky school uniform. That was what she had always said about this school uniform. She took a shower, changed into a halter top, and put on a mature and flirtatious makeup. Su Jiao looked at the woman in the mirror with satisfaction. She had an exquisite figure and a seductive aura all over her body. This appearance was the most popular in the nightclub. Looking at the time, it was almost dark. She picked up a bag, turned around, and went downstairs. After finishing her dinner, Su Jiao slowly walked toward her destination. She looked just like a beautiful fashionable lady. Red light. Xiao Cheng stopped the car and looked around casually. His gaze suddenly paused. He saw a woman. The woman had a good figure and a beautiful face, but Xiao Cheng wasn't attracted by these 2 points. A year ago, he had caught a glimpse of that figure in Xia City. Even now, it hadn't disappeared from Xiao Cheng's mind. Xiao Cheng had never believed in love at first sight. He had once thought that as time passed, the girl who had once made his heart throb would gradually become a beautiful memory. Wonderful memories. But it didn't. Even after such a long time, he could still clearly remember the girl's light blue skirt fluttering in the breeze, and her red and swollen eyes that had been baptized by tears. He had thought of going to Xia City again to see if he could find her. It was just that he was too busy with school and family matters. With such a delay, more than a year had passed. But today, when he was waiting at a red light out of boredom, he saw a woman who looked very similar to the girl he saw last year. Xiao Cheng felt excited for no reason. This woman looked very similar to her, but Xiao Cheng was sure that she wasn't her. Chapter 2048. Xiao Cheng, what are you looking at? Chu Ming, his best friend in the front passenger seat, asked curiously. He followed Xiao Cheng's gaze and suddenly smiled meaningfully. So you're looking at a beauty. Chu Ming felt that this was very strange. He and Xiao Cheng grew up in the same courtyard. The two of them had been playing with each other since they were young. Chu Ming knew this childhood friend's personality quite well. For example, he didn't get close to women. With the Xiao family's attitude, there were countless women who were willing to stick to Xiao Cheng. Look at the people in their circle. Which one of them didn't learn how to eat meat when they were in their teens? Only Xiao Cheng, who was already 20 years old, hadn't even touched a girl's hand. If he hadn't confirmed that this childhood friend's sexual orientation was normal, Chu Ming would have been worried about his chastity. What was rare was that Xiao Cheng actually looked at a woman for more than half a minute today. Chu Ming looked up at the sky outside the window. It was still so foggy. Nothing strange had happened. He also sized up Su Jiao, then said to Xiao Cheng with a face full of praise, "Brother, you have good taste. This girl's looks and figure are first-rate." As he spoke, he gave Chu Ming a thumbs up. Xiao Cheng just glanced at him and couldn't be bothered to argue with him. The red light passed. Su Jiao walked across the sidewalk to the other side. Xiao Cheng glanced at her, started the car, and turned the steering wheel. Chu Ming looked at him as if he had seen a ghost. Xiao Cheng was so fast? Su Jiao looked at the time. It was still too early for the real nightlife. She was wondering if she should find a coffee shop to stay for a while when a car slowly stopped beside her. Mississippi, a clear and gentle voice was heard. Su Jiao's eyes lit up. As a voice lover, she had a good impression of a man with such a voice. She turned around and saw a pair of long legs coming down from the black Cayenne. Su Jiao's eyes lit up even more. She sized up the man without leaving a trace. He had a good figure, and under his slightly rolled-up white shirt were beautiful muscle curves. Further up, his facial features were clear and elegant. At this moment, he was looking at her with a gentle gaze. He was very much like a well-educated young master in a literary work. Such a man was actually not Su Jiao's cup of tea. She admired those masculine and fit men more, because often such men were more powerful in bed than ordinary men. However, this was not a necessary condition. For example, at this moment, Su Xiao was very happy to develop a one-night relationship with such a good-looking man. "Are you calling me?" The corners of her lips curled up slightly, and she lifted her chin slightly, showing just the right amount of arrogance. Men, after all, wouldn't cherish a woman who delivered herself to their doorstep. She had to show her delicate side. But obviously, Xiao Cheng didn't have the extra energy to pay attention to these things. He only smiled and asked, "Miss, are you from Xia City?" This time, it was Su Xiao who was surprised. She frowned and asked, "How did you know?" Xiao Cheng answered honestly, "I once saw someone who looked like you in Xia City." Chu Ming, who was standing on the other side, looked at his childhood friend in shock. "I didn't expect you to be this kind of childhood friend. He even knew how to pick up girls. What happened to not getting close to women?" Chapter 2049. He thought that Xiao Cheng was just making up an excuse, but he didn't know that Xiao Cheng was telling the truth. Su Xiao's expression changed when she heard Xiao Cheng's words. In Xia City, who else could look like her other than Su Jian? Her expression immediately turned cold. "You've got the wrong person." With that, she turned around and left without another word. Chu Ming was dumbfounded, and Xiao Cheng was deep in thought. Chu Ming was a little confused. Why did she suddenly leave? Xiao Cheng shook his head. "I don't know. Let's go back." Chu Ming was confused by his attitude. "Aren't you going to chase after her?" Xiao Cheng was even more confused. "Why should I chase after her?" Chu Ming was shocked. "Didn't you spend so much effort to strike up a conversation with her because you like her?" Xiao Cheng, he looked at Chu Ming meaningfully and said, "Imagining things is a disease." Chu Ming. Xiao Cheng had already made up his mind. Su Xiao also angrily walked to a cafe. She ordered a cup of cappuccino and sulked by herself. Why could she still feel Su Jian's shadow in the capital? It was simply annoying. She thought of that man just now. He was a handsome man who fit her taste very well. She thought that he was here to hit on her, but the moment he opened his mouth, he asked about Su Jian. No. Su Xiao was annoyed. How could he distinguish between her and Su Jian? If she had known earlier, she would have lied and said that she was the one he met at that time. She thought to herself. A man who had ambiguous thoughts about Su Jian had actually slept with her. It couldn't be any better. Unfortunately, her attitude just now was too intense. Su Xiao sighed inwardly and comforted herself not to think about it. There were plenty of fish in the sea. She was going to hook up with someone better than the man just now. At midnight, Su Xiao, who had put on exquisite makeup, slowly walked to a famous bar street in the western district of the capital. She looked around for a while and chose a place she frequented. After going in, she didn't provoke anyone. She just ordered a few glasses of wine and slowly sipped them. It seemed casual, but there was a knack to it. Her beautiful red lips opened slightly, revealing a little bit of her red tongue. The clear wine flowed from her red lips into her mouth. Occasionally, a trace of it slid down her white chin, past her sexy collarbone, and into her snow-white breasts. Gulp. Su Xiao seemed to hear the sound of saliva being swallowed. She knew that at least a third of the men in the bar had already locked onto her. She was pleased with herself, but she did not show it on her face. She, Su Xiao, never needed to take the initiative to find a man. There were many men lining up for her. Soon, someone walked up. "Miss, may I have the honor of treating you to a drink?" The man asked politely. Su Xiao looked at him critically. His figure was weak. At first glance, she could tell that he was a white-collar worker who lacked exercise. Her lips curled up into a gorgeous smile, but the words that came out of her mouth were the most hurtful and poisonous. "You have the nerve, sir. I'm afraid you can't satisfy me." The man left with an ashen face. The next one would be here soon. He continued to be rejected. After repeating this scene for a long time, Su Jiao finally heard a deep voice that piqued her interest. I wonder if I can satisfy you? I'm really sorry, today's update is a little late. Everyone, rest early after reading it. Good night, good night. Chapter 2050. Su Jiao's ears twitched. The man's breath fell on her ear, hot and hot. No matter what his appearance was, his voice was quite to her liking. She turned her head and looked over. A tall and powerful man appeared in her sight. Gu Shengyin, who was listening to light music and reading at home, heard the prompt sound of the system. Su Jiao and that man were together. That man was the one who mistook Su Jian for Su Jiao in the original plot and forcibly kidnapped her and tortured her to death. Gu Shengyin carefully bookmarked the pages of the book in her hand. Her delicate eyebrows wrinkled. This development was much faster than the original plot. In the original plot, Su Jiao and that man hooked up after they both went to college in the capital and became adults. It was precisely because Su Jian was also in the capital that Su Jiao could put the blame on her sister without any burden. It seemed that this time, Su Jiao was sent to the capital in advance, which made a lot of things change. This time, Gu Shengyin was quite curious about how Su Jiao would deal with it. She couldn't use Su Jiao, who was still in Xia City, as an excuse again, could she? Looking at the time, Gu Shengyin closed the book in her hand, turned off the light, and prepared to rest. Her work and rest had always been quite regular. The next morning, Gu Shengyin didn't receive any prompt from the system until she went to school after breakfast. Thinking about it, it was obvious that people with short nights would not wake up so early. Sure enough, when the morning self-study was over and the first class was about to start, Gu Shengyin finally got the feedback from the system. The conclusion made her a little surprised. Maybe it was because the current Su Jiao hadn't seen all the sales like in the original plot. She was quite satisfied with that man. Similarly, that man was quite satisfied with Su Jiao's young and tender body. Su Jiao didn't prepare to leave after sleeping with him as in the original plot. Instead, she exchanged contact information with the man. It seemed that she had a long-term plan. In this case, all of this had nothing to do with Gu Shengyin. Everything was developing in a completely different direction from the original plot. She was in a good mood the whole day. Even when Mama Su suggested that they go to the capital during the school holidays, she didn't express any disgust. She knew very well in her heart that Mother Su was simply missing Su Jiao, who hadn't been home for almost 3 months. Mother Su was pleasantly surprised to see that her eldest daughter didn't resist. Gu Shengyin sighed. This mother had never given up on any of her daughters. For the past 2 years, she had been trying to mend the relationship between her 2 daughters. Gu Shengyin didn't even have the heart to tell her that it was all in vain. She and Su Jiao could never be reconciled. Gu Shengyin's school and Su Jiao's school had different holidays. Ji Suo had a 3-day break at the end of every month, and Mama Su's intention was to visit the capital during those 3 days. Gu Shengyin didn't have any objections. She would just treat it as a trip. Meanwhile, in a mansion somewhere far away in the capital, Xiao Cheng's voice was calm. Yes, help me buy a ticket to Xia City at the end of this month on the 29th. After hanging up the phone, Xiao Cheng's eyes were filled with anticipation. Chapter 2051. Just last night, he finally made a decision. He was going to Xia City to look for the girl he had only met once, but had never forgotten. He wanted to meet her and confirm what was going on with that inexplicable impulse and nostalgia in his heart. He didn't know if she had changed after not seeing each other for more than a year. Xiao Cheng didn't doubt that he would recognize her. After all, no one else had ever given him such a strong feeling. The 29th arrived quickly. The weather had turned cold, and the temperature had dropped over the past few days. When Gu Shengyin went out, she had already put on a long windbreaker. Mother Su didn't tell Gu Shengyin that she was going to see her younger daughter. Over the past year, her eldest daughter's attitude made it difficult for her to bring up the matter. On the contrary, Gu Shengyin felt a little distressed when she saw her mother's conflicted look. She simply said, "Mom, when we reach the capital, you can go see Su Jiao on the way." Mother Su was happy that her eldest daughter had taken the initiative to bring up the matter, but then she immediately reacted. She was talking about her going to see her. For a moment, Mother Su didn't know what to feel in her heart. She asked, "Yen Yen, aren't you going to see your sister?" Gu Shengyin shook her head. "Better not. If I see her, I don't think either of us will be happy." Mother Su's mouth moved, and Gu Shengyin could see that she still had something to say. However, there were some things that she could do for her mother, so she would naturally do them. But there were also some things that couldn't be compromised no matter what. There weren't many people in the first-class cabin, and the seats around the mother and daughter were empty. Gu Shengyin lowered her voice and said in a voice that wouldn't disturb others, but was loud enough for her mother to hear clearly. "Mom, I know what you want to see. But Su Jiao and I can't be sisters anymore." Mother Su looked at her with a sad gaze. Gu Shengyin hardened her heart. "Mom, I'm sorry." She turned her head away and pulled down her blindfold, no longer looking at her mother. Mother Su didn't say anything else. Gu Shengyin had something on her mind, and she fell asleep during the steady and boring flight. When he woke up again, he heard the notification that he was about to land. She took off the blindfold and met Mama Su's gentle gaze. Mama Su took her hand. "Yen Yen, Mama won't force you." Mama was thinking that since you two are sisters, you can take care of each other in the future if your relationship is good. "If you really don't like it." She paused for a moment before saying the rest of her words. "No matter what, as long as you're happy." Gu Shengyin heaved a sigh of relief. Sure enough, in the heart of any parent, they were infinitely tolerant of their children. Even if she was the one who made such a willful request. The plane landed safely, and the mother and daughter left the airport. At the same time, a man who was preparing to go to Xia City also hurried over. Xiao Cheng had a meeting in the morning. By the time it ended, it was already very late. He rushed to the airport. Just as he was about to enter, his eyes suddenly widened. He saw two people coming out of the airport gate. Of course, although there were two people, his gaze almost completely fell on one of them. It was her. He hadn't seen her for more than a year, but she had hardly changed. Chapter 2052. Xiao Cheng stood there and watched as the figure walked towards him, getting closer and closer. He also wanted to see it more clearly. There were still changes. She seemed to have grown a lot taller, and her face was longer and more three-dimensional than before. Xiao Cheng subconsciously raised his leg to get closer to her, but after taking a step, he stopped. If he went over to look for her so rashly, would he be treated as a lunatic? Did he want him to say, "I haven't been able to forget you ever since I saw you a year ago"? Anyone would think that such words were a hooligan. Moreover, Xiao Cheng glanced at the middle-aged lady beside Gu Shengyin. Looking at their similar faces, they were probably mother and daughter. It seemed like the mother and daughter had something to do, so it was better not to disturb them. As he was letting his imagination run wild, he suddenly met someone's gaze. Xiao Cheng was shocked, and he subconsciously straightened his back. "She's looking at me." Xiao Cheng swore that even when he was young, he had never been so nervous when his father tested him on his homework. He had washed his hair before he went out today and specially tidied it up. Yes, his taste in clothes was not bad, and he didn't do anything that would make people feel disgusted. Xiao Cheng evaluated himself and came to a conclusion. He looked pretty good today. After he thought about it, he looked at the other party confidently and was about to give her a gentlemanly smile. However, where was she? Xiao Cheng. He came back to his senses and realized that the mother and daughter had already walked past him and walked out. They went out, to go out. Xiao Cheng felt like an idiot just now. However, even though he was an idiot, he was still quite happy in his heart. He had originally wanted to go to Xia City to look for her, but now she had come to the capital herself. It saved him a lot of effort. Seeing the mother and daughter get into a taxi, Xiao Cheng hurriedly got into the car and followed them silently. Young Master Xiao Cheng, who had always prided himself on being open and aboveboard, felt like a wretched man who was secretly following a beauty. It was simply heartbreaking. Gu Shengyin couldn't help but laugh. Mother Su, who was sitting beside her, looked at her strangely. "What's wrong? Why are you so happy all of a sudden?" Gu Shengyin used the phone in her hand as a shield. "Nothing. I just saw a funny joke." Seeing this, Mother Su didn't ask any more questions and simply said, "Don't play with your phone in the car. Be careful of your eyes." Gu Shengyin smiled and nodded. Of course, she noticed Xiao Cheng. Not only did she notice him, but she also saw him secretly sizing her up, but when she looked at him, he lowered his head. Of course now, Gu Shengyin could clearly confirm that the two low-key black cars behind him were following him all the way. They looked inconspicuous. The taxi stopped at the gate of Su Jiao's school. Mother Su got out of the car and sighed when she saw that her eldest daughter had no intention of getting out. Gu Shengyin said obediently, "I'm waiting for Mom at the hotel." Their itinerary had already been arranged. Gu Shengyin didn't want to stay at Su Jiao's apartment, so she had already booked a hotel. Xiao Cheng followed behind and watched as the older lady got out of the car. The person he was thinking about was still in the car. Of course, he continued to follow without saying anything. Gu Shengyin got out of the car and walked into the hotel. Xiao Cheng sat silently in the car, thinking about how to strike up a conversation. There were still 3 more updates before midnight. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2053. Then, he saw Gu Shengyin walk out alone. Xiao Cheng thought for a moment, stopped the car, and slowly followed her. The person in front didn't seem to have a destination. She was just taking a stroll, or rather, she just wanted to walk around the capital. He followed her for about 20 minutes. Xiao Cheng took a look. This was a famous theme park in the capital. Gu Shengyin walked in. Then, she found a lounge chair in a more remote location and sat down. Xiao Cheng was thinking about whether he should go up when he saw the other party raise his head and look at him. He was shocked. Had he been discovered? Xiao Cheng glanced at the other party. The other party's expression was gentle and calm, and no emotions could be seen. He thought for a moment and felt that this was a good opportunity to strike up a conversation, so he walked over. He walked up to Gu Shengyin. Before he could think of a way to greet her, he was shocked by her words. "You've been following me since the airport. What's the matter?" The other party didn't seem to be afraid. She tilted her head and looked at him with a hint of a smile in her tone. Xiao Cheng felt a little embarrassed. After all, his behavior was really like that kind of... In short, it was filled with an indescribable perversion. He opened his mouth, but in the end, he helplessly realized that his actions really couldn't be washed away. He couldn't help but want to cover his face. Gu Shengyin looked at the man's unpredictable expression with interest. In the end, she said, "I'm sorry." She couldn't help but laugh. She winked at Xiao Cheng and said, "Since you're so handsome, I'll forgive you." For the first time, Xiao Cheng was so grateful to his parents for giving him a handsome face. To be fair, Xiao Cheng wasn't an introverted boy. His family background, the education he had received since he was young, and the environment he grew up in were enough for him to speak frankly in any big occasion. But now, he felt at a loss for words in this quiet little world. He really wanted to strike up a conversation, but he didn't know what to say. "Sigh, does she think of me as a pervert who goes up to a beauty when he sees one? Aya, she looks so cute with her eyes lowered. Her eyelashes are so long. I really want to touch them." Xiao Cheng, the idiot, automatically switched to his imagination mode in his awkward state. Gu Shengyin waited for a while, but she didn't hear anything. She couldn't help but raise her head curiously. Then, she saw Xiao Cheng's handsome face with a mesmerizing smile. Gu Shengyin. Logically speaking, did he really not have any special hobbies? Fortunately, Xiao Cheng was very sensitive to his surroundings. When he sensed Gu Shengyin's gaze, he immediately put away his smile and kicked those strange thoughts out of his mind. Then he asked seriously, "My name is Xiao Cheng. May I know? Gu Shengyin also reported her name. Successfully obtained the name. Xiao Cheng was very happy. After his imagination ended, Xiao Cheng seemed to have returned to normal. He sat down on another bench and took the initiative to chat with Gu Shengyin. For someone like Xiao Cheng, as long as he was willing, he had many ways to easily gain the favor of strangers. Even if it wasn't a good impression, it wouldn't be annoying. Especially now that he was trying to please Gu Shengyin. The conversation between the two of them was quite happy. Until Gu Shengyin received a call. Xiao Cheng listened to her quietly. It was probably her mother calling to ask her to go back. Gu Shengyin hung up the phone. Chapter 2054. At a time like this, of course, he had to increase his favorability. Xiao Cheng immediately said that he could send her back. Gu Shengyin didn't refuse. Then, the car drove to the entrance of the hotel Gu Shengyin had booked. Xiao Cheng didn't open the car door immediately. He looked at Gu Shengyin and hesitated. Gu Shengyin sighed and said, "Let's exchange contact information." Xiao Cheng was overjoyed. That was what he wanted to say. But on the other hand, he felt that asking for contact information for the first time, it didn't seem right. The two of them quickly exchanged contact information. Gu Shengyin suddenly said, "If you want to pursue me, hesitating like this won't do you any good." Xiao Cheng. Gu Shengyin continued, "Why do you think I'm so polite to a man who's following me? Or do you think I'm such an easy to talk to and have no temper?" Xiao Cheng was stunned. Gu Shengyin said, "I'll stay in the capital for 3 days." Then, she opened the car door and got out. Xiao Cheng was still in a daze. After a while, he seemed to come back to his senses, and a puzzled and ecstatic expression appeared on his face. Without another word, he called his childhood friend, Chu Ming. "Chu Ming, I have something very important to ask you," he said seriously. Chu Ming, who was shopping with his new girlfriend, was shocked by his serious tone. He let his girlfriend shop on her own and walked to the other side. What happened? Then, Xiao Cheng told him about how he met Gu Shengyin today. Of course, he repeated what Gu Shengyin said in the end without missing a word. After that, he asked a little nervously, "Do you think what she's trying to say is the same as what I'm trying to say?" Chu Ming, he gritted his teeth and said, "Did you feed your 190 IQ to the dogs? She's already hinted so clearly, and you're still asking me? Hurry up." Such a stupid guy deserved to be single for 10,000 years. This was the first time Xiao Cheng felt that his childhood friend's voice was so pleasant. He suddenly laughed. "I got it. All right, there's nothing for you to do now. You can go now." After that, he hung up the phone. Chu Ming, who had been miserably abandoned after using her F***ck, Gu Shengyin had just returned to her room when she received a message from Xiao Cheng. "Do you have time for a meal tomorrow? Have you finally figured it out?" Gu Shengyin gave an affirmative answer. Then there was a knock on her door. Opening the door, Gu Shengyin was not surprised to see Mother Su and Su Jiao, who was well-dressed, standing outside the door. Sure enough, Su Jiao had always known what kind of daughter her parents liked. Gu Shengyin looked indifferent. "Mom." She nodded at Su Jiao. Seeing her eldest daughter's expression, Mama Su was a little embarrassed. She gently tugged at her younger daughter, and Su Jiao softly called Gu Shengyin, "Sister." After she said that, she looked at Su Jian eagerly, not knowing what kind of response she was expecting. Gu Shengyin did not respond. She gave a faint hum, and her attitude was no more enthusiastic than before. So Su Jiao was dissatisfied again. She glared at Gu Shengyin angrily and snorted heavily. Gu Shengyin still ignored her. Mama Su had to stand up and smooth things over. "I just ordered food from the nearby Tianhe restaurant. I heard it's very famous. Shall we go for dinner together?" Chapter 2055. The entire dinner was filled with an awkward atmosphere. Mother Su tried her best to ease the atmosphere, but one of her daughters was only focused on eating, while the other was unhappy after being treated coldly. The whole scene was like this. Mother Su, come, Yen Yen, try this. Yao Yao, you try it too. Su Jiao, you won't even look at me. So angry. Gu Xingyin. Oh, this is delicious. This is not bad either. In the end, she could only helplessly send Su Jiao back to school. Of the three of them, only Gu Shengyin was satisfied with the meal. The hotel wasn't far from where they were staying, and Gu Shengyin planned to walk back, treating it as a digestion. A sudden change occurred. She had only walked halfway when a strange aura attacked her from behind. She took a step back and accurately avoided the man's embrace. There was a hint of surprise in the deep voice. Gu Xingyin's expression turned cold, and she turned to look at the stranger behind her. She could tolerate her lover's occasional perverted behavior, but she couldn't tolerate other men doing such things. The man in front of her was very tall, at least 9 meters. His face was resolute, and under his rolled-up sleeves, she could see the bulging muscles. This was a man with an aura as strong as a wolf. He narrowed his eyes, and his expression seemed a little unhappy. I haven't seen you for 2 days, and your temper has grown. At this time, Gu Xingyin also knew who he was. Wasn't he the man who tortured Su Jian to death in the original plot? Of course, he was now in a sexual relationship with Su Jiao. This man, Gu Xingyin said coldly, "Who are you?" The man thought she was playing some kind of game, and reached out to grab her, saying obscenely, "Who am I? You'll know when we're on the bed." Gu Xingyin's expression turned fierce, and without saying a word, she dodged to the side. Her figure flashed, and she was already in front of the man. Then, with a swift and violent kick, she slashed at the man's waist. The man's expression turned serious, and he reacted quickly. As he retreated, he reached out to block Gu Xingyin's congratulations. So heavy. The man took 2 steps back and looked at Gu Xingyin as if looking at a monster. How could such a small body have so much strength? Gu Juli Shangyin, who had the help of the system, did not continue to chase after him. Instead, he maintained a defensive posture and looked at him. She actually hated this man. The reason why he didn't care about him was because he knew that in this world, he and Su Jiao were together. Gu Shengyin didn't pay any attention to the matter between the two of them, holding the thought of letting the wicked deal with the wicked one. She also wanted to see what would happen to Su Jiao after provoking this man. The man's hawk-like eyes locked on Gu Xingyin. "You are not Su Jiao." He was well aware of the capabilities of the women he had slept with. Gu Xingyin sneered, "I said it from the beginning." The man looked at her closely, as if he was looking at a rare thing. "Are you willing to follow me?" Such a woman was strong in bed with her lover, and amazing in fighting as a subordinate. Gu Xingyin glanced at him coldly, and the killing intent in her eyes was clear. "Do you want to die?" She turned and left. "I'm different from Su Jiao. Let go of those disgusting thoughts. If you push me too hard, I'll make you regret it for a lifetime." Today's update was completed. I haven't asked for a vote for a long time. Let me ask for a vote. Good night, everyone. Moi. Chapter 2056. The man stood behind Gu Xingyin and didn't follow her. Firstly, he hadn't figured out Gu Xingyin's background yet. Secondly, his aching hands reminded him that if he didn't use firearms, he wouldn't be able to keep her. Even if the man had some power, he wouldn't dare to use firearms in public in the capital. That night, Su Jiao received a call from the man. "A girl who looks exactly like me?" Su Jiao's expression didn't look good. She snorted. "Why? Are you interested in her?" The man's deep voice was as sexy as ever. "How is that possible? That woman looks pure and simple. How can she be compared to my little wild cat?" This kind of sweet talk didn't work on Su Jiao at all. She said, "Don't try that. That woman is my sister, a famous straight-A student. She's not like us." She made it very clear that she wanted the man to stop having any ideas about Su Jian. Of course, Su Jiao wasn't thinking about Gu Shengyin and didn't want her to be targeted. She said that to the man because she wasn't tired of that man yet. She had classified that man as her own, so she naturally couldn't stand him being attracted to Gu Shengyin. In that case, wouldn't it prove that she couldn't compare to Su Jian? She definitely wouldn't allow that to happen. The man probably understood what she meant and didn't continue the topic. However, no one knew what he was thinking in his heart. The next day, Gu Shengyin received a message from Xiao Cheng early on. He had already booked the time and place. "Mom, I'm going out to play. I won't be having lunch with you." Mother Su was a little surprised. "Where are you going alone?" Gu Shengyin smiled. "I have a good online friend in the capital." Mother Su was a little worried when she heard that. Online friend? Could it be a scam? Gu Shengyin had to comfort her. "Don't worry about Mom, we have an appointment to meet in a place with many people. She is afraid that I am a bad person." She told a small lie. Otherwise, Mama Su wouldn't have dared to leave her alone. Even so, Mother Su was still worried and insisted on going with them. Gu Shengyin sighed and shook her phone. "Can you report your schedule at any time? My friend will be nervous if you're here." Seeing her daughter's insistence, Mother Su could only give up. When Gu Shengyin went out, she reminded him worriedly, "Remember to call me." The two of them had agreed to meet at 11 o'clock, but Xiao Cheng arrived before 10 o'clock. Last night, he had repeatedly called out Chu Ming, which almost drove him crazy. "I say, Uncle Xiao Cheng, don't ask me any tricks or strategies. The lady has already made it so obvious. You need to be more attentive and diligent today. Show your ability to compete with the client. As long as you don't make any stupid mistakes, you'll definitely succeed." He was still a little worried. He had woken up early in the morning and groomed himself for half a day. He was finally satisfied after making sure that every strand of hair was in its proper position. When he went out, the old man, who was sitting on the sofa and watching Beijing opera, turned his head to look at his grandson a few times. "Where are you going?" In front of this old man who had been on the battlefield, Xiao Cheng had always been serious and almost never hid anything. He subconsciously replied, "To see your future granddaughter-in-law." Chapter 2057. There was silence. Old Master Xiao didn't even watch his favorite drama. He held his walking stick and turned to look at his grandson. "I think I just heard a granddaughter-in-law?" Xiao Cheng pursed his lips and answered honestly, "Not yet." How well did old Master Xiao know his grandson? With just these words and his grandson's current expression, he knew what stage his granddaughter-in-law was at. It was obvious that this brat hadn't taken her down yet. He stomped his walking stick on the ground. "Then why aren't you going?" Xiao Cheng responded and walked out. When he walked out of the door, he heard the old man's energetic voice. "Remember to bring her back for me to see." Xiao Cheng sat in his seat and kept looking at his watch. It should have been something that he was very confident about, but at this moment, he started to worry about gains and losses. He couldn't help but wonder if yesterday's conversation was just a hallucination. She wouldn't go back on her word, right? As he thought about it, Xiao Cheng felt like he was retarded. If such behavior happened to anyone else, he would definitely be able to use sharp words to make the other party regain their lost IQ within 10 minutes. But when it came to himself, sigh. He sighed softly. As expected, the result of caring too much was definitely to worry about gains and losses. Although he had always looked like a humble and polite young master, with his identity, his life had always been smooth. How could he not have a trace of pride in his bones? Even 2 days ago, if someone had told him that one day he would be so worried about gains and losses because of someone, he would have lost his confidence. Xiao Cheng would have smiled faintly. On the surface, he would have been able to deflect the person with little effort, but in his heart, he would have cursed the person and added him to the permanent blacklist. But now, Xiao Cheng thought expressionlessly that he might be the retarded one. It was 10:30 p.m. He couldn't help but take out his phone to call Chu Ming. Just as he dialed the familiar number, he saw a familiar figure walking towards him. Xiao Cheng put his phone down on the table and stood up. On the other side, Chu Ming, who had been partying with a group of friends all night, saw that it was his childhood friend calling. He endured his sleepiness and answered the call. "Hello." No one said anything. "Chu Ming." He shouted again. Xiao Cheng watched as Gu Shengyin sat down. Only then did he remember that his phone was still connected. Seeing that it was still connected, he hung up without saying anything. "Chu Ming." He thought that something had happened to Xiao Cheng, so he called him again. When Xiao Cheng saw the call, he quickly replied without hesitation. The pitiful Chu Ming looked at the sentence. "I'm busy right now. I don't have time to pay attention to you. If there's anything, let's talk at night." His muddled brain reacted for a while. F***CK, who's looking for you? You were the one who called me. He angrily threw the phone at his feet and went back to sleep. "You can answer the phone first," Gu Shengyin said when she saw Xiao Cheng's behavior. Xiao Cheng shook his head. "It's nothing important." He understood Chu Ming. If there really was something important, he could call you a dozen times in one go. Either you answer his call, or you get annoyed and blacklisted. Xiao Cheng handed the menu to Gu Shengyin. "What do you like to eat?" Gu Shengyin glanced at it and didn't stand on ceremony with him. She casually pointed at a few dishes. Xiao Cheng was obviously very happy to see her attitude. He took the menu and ordered 3 or 4 more dishes. After ordering, he handed the dishes to the waiter who was waiting at the side. He looked at Gu Shengyin without blinking. Gu Shengyin smiled and said, "Why are you looking at me? I'll continue later." Chapter 2058. Cheng asked hesitantly, "What did you mean by what you said to me earlier?" Of course, Gu Shengyin knew what he was asking. But now, she wanted to be naughty. "Ah! What did you say?" Xiao Cheng felt a little embarrassed. "You said that if it wasn't me, it was another man." Gu Shengyin blinked and said, "Exactly what I said." Xiao Cheng scratched his head. Gu Shengyin, on the other hand, looked at him with amusement. She wanted to know how long he could hold back before he spoke. Xiao Cheng's other hand on the table couldn't help rubbing his wrist. To be precise, he was rubbing his watch. This was his habit. When he was nervous or thinking about a problem, his body would subconsciously do this. Xiao Cheng looked at the girl opposite him. There was a faint smile on her exquisite face, and her big black and bright eyes were looking straight at him. Her gaze seemed to be filled with encouragement. Encouragement. He suddenly had an epiphany. The hesitation and nervousness from before disappeared in an instant. He looked deeply into Gu Shengyin's eyes, but the words that came out of his mouth stunned her. "The first time I saw you was a year ago." Gu Shengyin was surprised. Why didn't she know about this? Xiao Cheng seemed to have completely calmed down. He relaxed his body slightly and leaned against the back of the loose and soft chair. He looked at Gu Shengyin and smiled. "At that time, I happened to go to Xia City to play and saw you at the entrance of a middle school. I only saw you once and hurried back to the capital. I've been serving you for nearly a year and a half. I haven't been to Xia City again, but I haven't forgotten you." The smile on Gu Shengyin's lips deepened. This reaction made Xiao Cheng happy. He told a secret that he had never told anyone else. "Actually, 2 days ago, you saw me at the airport. It was I who had arranged the things in my hands and was about to go to Xia City to look for you." Gu Shengyin's eyes widened. Xiao Cheng smiled. He seemed a little embarrassed, but his eyes were shining as he looked at Gu Shengyin. "I want to find the girl I've only seen once but can never forget. I want to see her, I want to ask her." He looked at Gu Shengyin, and there seemed to be a galaxy in his eyes. "I want to ask her if she has a boyfriend." Gu Shengyin asked, "What do you want to do now that you know the answer?" Xiao Cheng smiled. "If she doesn't have a boyfriend, I'll apply for a job. If there is, I refuse to accept this possibility. Gu Shengyin was amused by his domineering and willful words. Facing the man's expectant gaze, she pretended to ponder for a while and finally said, "Well, since you're so handsome, I'll allow you to take up the post." It was only at this moment that Xiao Cheng's heart finally settled down. He said, "Yen Yen, is it okay for me to call you that? Does your family mind that you have a boyfriend now?" Gu Shengyin only glanced at Xiao Cheng. "I'll be 18 in a year. What do you think?" Xiao Cheng. Well, to be honest, he just wanted to go to his parents-in-law's house as soon as possible and settle their relationship. After talking about it, the awkwardness between the two of them seemed to have disappeared. After dinner in a pleasant atmosphere, Gu Shengyin thought of that man. She asked, "By the way, you're from the capital. Do you know a person named Xiao Long?" Chapter 2059. Xiao Long. Actually, Xiao Cheng really knew him. But he was not sure if the Xiao Long he knew was the same person as the one Gu Shengyin talked about. If they were the same person, how could Yen Yen know such a person? Gu Shengyin saw that Xiao Cheng didn't speak, so she thought he didn't know him. She said, "It's said that he's a gangster. If you can get in touch with him." Xiao Cheng asked, "Do you know him?" There was a hint of disgust on Gu Shengyin's face. "I met him last night." Xiao Cheng suddenly became nervous. "Are you okay? Why didn't you tell me that you met him?" He had heard of Xiao Long's reputation, and he vaguely knew that this person was cruel and fond of beauties. In a short moment, he imagined a scene of a bully flirting with a girl. Gu Shengyin shook her head to show that she was fine. "I'm fine, but it seems that that person won't let it go." Xiao Cheng looked cold. "Don't worry, Yan. I'll deal with Xiao Long, don't worry, he won't pester you anymore." Did he mean that he would make Xiao Long suffer? Gu Shengyin thought that if Xiao Long took her away so early, what would happen to Su Jiao? She quickly stopped him. "If you have the ability, ask someone to warn him and teach him a lesson. My sister, Su Jiao, seems to have a good relationship with him." She didn't say anything more than that. "Sister?" Xiao Cheng remembered the girl with coquettish makeup he met on the road earlier. It seemed that she should be the sister that Yen Yen mentioned. In this way, the characters of the two sisters were really a little different. Out of concern, he still reminded her, "Xiao Long is not easy to deal with. Yen Yen, you can mention it to your sister." Mention it? Gu Shengyin thought that even if she reminded her sister out of kindness, Su Jiao would probably only think that she was jealous. She said with a cold look, "There's no need to remind me. My relationship with Su Jiao is not as good as you think. You don't have to do anything for her." She didn't mind exposing some things in front of Xiao Cheng. They were going to be together for the rest of their lives. There were some things that didn't need to be hidden. Seeing this, Xiao Cheng felt strange, but thinking about it, there were many examples of sisters in big families who didn't get along well, so Yen Yan's attitude wasn't strange. Wasn't that girl also unhappy when he asked her questions earlier? Thinking of this, he nodded. "Then I won't interfere in her matters." He vaguely sensed something in his heart, but he didn't say anything. Before knowing what had happened, no one had the right to interfere with the decisions of others. Gu Shengyin didn't know what Xiao Cheng did. Anyway, from then on, the man called Xiao Long really didn't come to find Gu Shengyin. Based on Gu Shengyin's understanding of that man's vicious character, this was almost impossible. She didn't ask about Xiao Cheng's family background, but Xiao Cheng didn't seem to have any intention of hiding anything from her. The imperial capital, surnamed Xiao, had great power. Almost anyone with a brain would be able to connect these things together and obtain a terrifying message. So it was that family. If she guessed correctly, Xiao Cheng's grandfather should be the old man who often appeared on the central news in the early years. If that was the case, it would not be strange for Xiao Cheng to be able to make Xiao Long obedient. By the way, the activities of the welfare group will end at 12 o'clock tomorrow. If you have enough fans, remember to join the group. It would be a loss if you don't accept the red packets. Chapter 2060. Time passed again. Gu Shengyin was admitted to the first university of the imperial capital with first place in Jisuo. And Su Zhiyao was also admitted to an ordinary second-rate school in the imperial capital. What surprised Gu Shengyin was that Su Zhiyao actually got along with a man called Xiao Long for 2 years in a relationship that was neither close nor distant. And it seemed that they had real feelings for each other. Not long after Gu Shengyin entered her first year of university, it was her 19th birthday. On the day of National Day, she was dragged back to the Xiao family by Xiao Cheng. According to Xiao Cheng, the entire Xiao family had long known about her and had always asked Xiao Cheng to bring her home to meet them. However, Xiao Cheng had hidden her too well. This time, they finally met in person. When the two sides met, they had a good impression of each other. A family like the Xiao family had an excellent family upbringing. It was impossible for them to have unruly plots like those in some TV series. On the contrary, they were quite satisfied with Gu Shengyin's appearance and speech. When they heard that she was a student of the first university, their impression of her improved a lot. At the end of the semester, Gu Shengyin also brought Xiao Cheng home. Their eldest daughter brought her boyfriend home. This was a very shocking thing for the Su family's parents. Mother Su was fine. Father Su was very picky about Xiao Cheng, but he couldn't find any fault with Xiao Cheng's behavior. As for Xiao Cheng, it was only after the Su parents finally showed their approval of him that he revealed his identity. The two elders were dumbfounded. Although they were considered rich and their families had a lot of connections in the political world. But a family like the Xiao family, which truly stood at the top, was in the core circle that ordinary people had no way to set foot in. However, this wasn't what made Father Su excited. Old Master Xiao. That was his lifelong idol. Xiao Cheng never thought that his grandfather was not only the umbrella of the entire Xiao family, but also played such a huge role when he met his future father-in-law. Father Su's attitude towards Xiao Cheng changed 108 degrees. After dinner, he even dragged people to the study to discuss old Master Zhao's great achievements. Mama Su looked at her daughter helplessly. "That's how your father is." Gu Shengyin smiled and said nothing. No matter what, this result was something to be happy about. Although she couldn't give up on her lover no matter what her family's attitude was, getting the support of her family was the best result, wasn't it? Su Zhiyao's school holidays were later. When she returned home, she heard the news that her sister had found a boyfriend. Su Zhiyao was a little surprised. As far as she knew, Su Zhiyan was the kind of person who only cared about learning and challenges. She was so outstanding that no boy could compare to her. Su Zhiyao had once viciously speculated that a woman like Su Zhiyan would be like some doctorate professors in university, an old woman in her 30s who wore old-fashioned professional suits every day, had a house and a car, but was still an old virgin that no one cared about. When she occasionally thought of such a possibility, she even felt a little happy in her heart. So what if you're outstanding? If I don't like studying and can't get into a good school, I can still live a carefree life. In comparison, you, Su Zhiyan, are simply a pitiful worm. Chapter 2061. But in just one semester, Su Zhiyan had a boyfriend? Father Su and Mother Su naturally wouldn't talk about Xiao Cheng's family background casually, but from their reaction, Su Zhiyao could see that they were satisfied with Su Zhiyan's boyfriend. A boy who could catch Father Su's and Mother Su's eyes must be good in all aspects. Su Zhiyao felt unbalanced again. She always felt that Su Zhiyan was doing it on purpose, wanting to be ahead of her in everything. However, she had never thought about the fact that she had dated countless boyfriends over the years. It wasn't that there hadn't been a man who loved her wholeheartedly, but Su Zhiyao was greedy for fresh excitement and finally got tired of it after a while. It was her own decision not to bring her boyfriend home. How could she blame Gu Shengyin for this? It seemed that there was a saying that was right. When you didn't like someone, no matter what they did, you could see the shadow in them with narrow-minded eyes. Su Zhiyao was like this when she looked at Su Zhiyan. On this day, Gu Shengyin was reading on a wooden chair in the garden as usual. The summer in Xia City wasn't too hot, but it was definitely not friendly. Sometimes, when the sun wasn't so hot, Gu Shengyin would walk out of the air-conditioned room and sit under the vines to cool down. She thought about it carefully. On the first day she came to this world, she seemed to have sat in this place in the same posture. In the blink of an eye, such a long time had passed. Su Jian. A clear voice called her name. Gu Shengyin narrowed her eyes and looked at the person walking towards her. In the past 2 years, the relationship between the two sisters had become colder and colder, and they couldn't even be bothered to maintain the harmony on the surface. For example, they called each other by their names as if they were strangers. Su Jiao's expression didn't look too good, but she still said, "Zheng Nan and the others have a party tomorrow night. Do you want to go with us?" Zheng Nan? Gu Shengyin thought for a while and shook her head. No. She grew up with the two sisters when she was young, but after junior high school, she became estranged from Su Jian. However, she had a good relationship with Su Jiao. Both of them were famous for their playful personalities. It was easy to imagine what kind of activities they would have at their gathering. Su Jiao bit her lip. If it were her, of course, she would not be willing to invite Gu Shengyin. However, Zheng Nan also invited a few handsome men and beautiful women. Some of them heard that Su Jiao had a sister who went to the first university, so they all urged her to come over. Su Jiao was also drunk at that time. She said on the spot that her sister listened to her the most. As long as she asked, Su Jian would definitely come. As for how much he regretted after he woke up, that was a matter for the future. In short, in order not to lose face, Su Jiao straightened her neck and invited Gu Shengyin. Obviously, Gu Shengyin did not intend to give her face. Su Jian, just do me a favor. Tell me what you want, Su Jiao said. Gu Shengyin glanced at her and snorted. What do you think is worthy of my attention? Su Jiao's face was livid. Gu Shengyin felt that she had not provoked her enough and continued, Also, Su Jiao, what kind of dirty things are in your so-called gathering? Mom and Dad don't know, but don't think that I don't know. She didn't hide her disdain at all in her tone. You have the face to invite me? Su Jiao, I find it dirty for you. A late update. Gao Lengji hugged the quilt and shivered. Chapter 2062. Su Jiao's expression changed. She couldn't help raising her voice and looking at Gu Shengyin. What do you mean? She thought that she had been in the capital for the past few years, and she didn't act as ostentatiously as before. Her family was far away in Xia City, so it was impossible for them to know what she had done. Su Jian was deliberately scaring her, wasn't she? She snorted and said, I know you look down on me, Su Jian. It's fine if you don't want to play with us, but why do you have to speak so harshly? Harshly? Gu Shengyin seemed to have heard a joke. She suddenly stood up, approached Su Jiao, and said softly, Do you really think that the campus hunk in your school, the man named Xiao Long, and the man in the bar called Blue every month can really hide from everyone's eyes? She looked at Su Jiao indifferently, and her face suddenly turned pale. Gu Shengyin said, Su Jiao, you can rest assured for the time being that Mom and Dad don't know about this, and I don't intend to tell them. Su Jiao's eyes lit up, and then she had some doubts. She didn't believe that Su Jian would be so kind. Gu Shengyin said coldly, I'm not a saint, and the little sisterhood I have for you has long disappeared. The reason why I didn't tell Mom and Dad was that I didn't want them to be sad because of you, and I wanted to threaten you with this. Su Jiao's eyes widened because of Gu Shengyin's words. It was the first time that she had heard someone say the word, threat, so confidently. What do you want? Su Jiao's tone was much more polite because she had something on her. She knew very well that Mom and Dad didn't like her behavior. If they knew that she still couldn't change her style when she was in the capital, Su Jiao didn't want to think about what would happen to her. Maybe her angry father would directly take away the shares that he had intended to leave for her. Gu Shengyin glanced at her and said, What I want is very simple. Don't jump around in front of me in the future, and put away that bad idea in your heart. She looked at Su Jiao, who seemed to be very indignant, with a mocking expression. Don't play tricks, Su Jiao. She stretched out a hand and waved it gently. When I said those words, you should have known that your life has always been under my control. Su Xiao suddenly raised her head and looked at her sister. The Su Jian in front of him still looked calm and gentle, innocent and harmless. Su Xiao thought absent-mindedly that she had always been deceived by her. She had always looked down on Su Jian. She felt that Su Jian's life was boring, and she felt that Su Jian was very silly. Now that he thought about it, wasn't he the foolish one? When he went to provoke Su Jian, did she always think that he was an idiot in her heart? Su Xiao turned around and left silently. Gu Shengyin looked at her back and thought that if she still had some brains, she probably wouldn't bother him anymore. She was right. Su Xiao didn't provoke her again, nor did she lose her temper with her. From that moment on, the two sisters had truly become strangers who had never interacted with each other before. 3 years later, Gu Shengyin graduated. The elders of the Su family and the Xiao family met, and the relationship between them was officially established. Chapter 2063. At the engagement party with Xiao Cheng, Gu Shengyin saw Su Xiao, whom she hadn't seen for a long time. She seemed to be having a good time. She was dressed very delicately, and she looked much more charming than before. The man named Gu Shengyin stood beside her in surprise. Xiao Long, she brought Xiao Long to my wedding. Could it be that the two of them had developed from lovers to a real couple? Gu Shengyin was a little curious. After all, whether it was Xiao Long or Su Xiao, neither of them had the temperament to stop for someone. It was hard to imagine what the future would be like when the two of them got together. However, she only thought about it for a moment and then gave up this idea. Not to mention what would happen to the two of them in the future, it had nothing to do with her. The increasing involvement between Su Xiao and Xiao Long was very much in line with her own wishes. Su Xiao was spoiled, and Xiao Long was surly and difficult to get along with. The two of them would probably torture each other for a long time. What are you looking at? Her hands were covered by a pair of warm hands, and Xiao Cheng's gentle voice appeared in her ears. Gu Shengyin was stunned for a moment, then she came back to her senses and shook her head with a smile. Nothing. She held the hand of the man beside her. She just needed to live her own life. What did other people's lives have to do with her? After the elder daughter got engaged, the younger daughter, Su Xiao, also brought her boyfriend back to meet her parents. Father Su and Mother Su were not at ease when they saw Xiao Long's appearance, but Su Xiao insisted that she liked him, and as parents, there was nothing they could do. Su Xiao still beat Gu Shengyin, her elder sister, on something. For example, marriage. Xiao Long didn't have parents. Su Xiao, who had always been willful, got married to him almost immediately after obtaining the consent of her parents. After that, she lived in the capital with her husband for a long time. Gu Shengyin also lived in the capital, but the two sisters had never met each other. Gu Shengyin finally knew why the two of them got married. It was really ridiculous. Because after marriage, Xiao Long and Su Xiao still played their own games. A proper couple would actually go to a bar together. The husband was looking for a lover, and the wife was having a one-night stand. Both parties didn't seem to mind at all. What was even more outrageous was that the couple would occasionally play with others. Gu Shengyin's worldview was refreshed. In the past, she had always thought that such an unreasonable plot would only appear in porn. She had never thought that such a thing would actually happen in front of her. It was really disgusting. What was marriage to these two people? Because of this, Gu Shengyin no longer paid attention to Su Xiao. She told the system not to tell her anything unless something big happened to Su Xiao or if she wanted to harm her. Another year passed. Gu Shengyin and Xiao Qing finally got married and became a real couple. Less than half a year after their marriage, Gu Shengyin became pregnant. After October, she gave birth to a pair of twin girls. When she was so tired that she fell asleep, Gu Shengyin seemed to hear the system say something. She opened her eyes again and found that her body had been cleaned. Her lower body was very clean and refreshing, and her husband, Xiao Cheng, was looking at the two cradles beside him and smiling. Yen Yen. Seeing her wake up, Xiao Cheng smiled with satisfaction. Thank you for making my life perfect enough. He leaned over gently and kissed the corner of her forehead. Chapter 2064. After the confinement, Gu Xingyin's body recovered well. Finally, the system reminded her of something again. It was about Su Jiao. She didn't have a good time recently. To be precise, it seemed to have started 3 months ago. There was a conflict between her and Xiao Long. The husband and wife, who were originally getting along harmoniously, began to dislike each other. After Gu Shangyin found out what kind of life the two of them had after getting married, he understood that there was no such thing as true love between the two of them. People who had feelings would never tolerate the other party's disloyalty to them. As for a man like Xiao Long, it was fine when he liked you. It could be said that he would give you whatever you wanted. But if he didn't like you, he would have 100 ways to punish you. They used to have a tacit understanding between them. But now, it had become one of Su Jiao's original sins in his eyes. Su Jiao was about to go crazy from the torture. She was locked in a dark room without any light. She was stripped naked and poured hot wax on her body. She was tied to a wooden frame with her limbs wide open and whipped with a special whip. The first time when Gu Shengyin gave birth was when she had her first emotional breakdown. The system remembered the host's reminder and was about to tell her about it. Gu Shengyin was too tired and fell asleep. When she woke up again, the system chose to hide this matter. Until her body, which was damaged by the delivery, recovered. Only then did the system tell Gu Shengyin what had happened. After another month, Su Jiao was about to go crazy from the torture. Lying on the damp bed, Su Jiao regretted it too much. She regretted more than once that she provoked Xiao Long, the devil. She was sure that this man was definitely mentally abnormal. There was no fierce conflict between them. It was just a small dispute between her and him. But later, she didn't know that her words stimulated Xiao Long. His face suddenly became ferocious. And then, Su Jiao couldn't help but tremble. She trembled when she thought about what happened after that. Xiao Long was simply a lunatic. He took pleasure in torturing her all day long. What made Su Jian despair was that she didn't have any communication tools with her. She was locked in this small room with no way to escape or contact the outside world. She was afraid that one day, she would die here without anyone knowing. There was a chance to save Gu Shengyin. As long as she called the police or asked Xiao Cheng to step in, no matter how crazy Xiao Long was, he would not disrespect the Xiao family. However, Gu Shengyin did not say anything, nor did she do anything. It was Su Jiao's own decision to choose Xiao Long. The most important thing was that when she heard about Su Jiao's fate, she would remember what happened to Su Jian in the original plot. Compared to Su Jiao, Su Jian was more innocent and pitiful. Just because of Su Jiao's selfishness, she lost her life. Perhaps in the cycle of reincarnation, Su Jiao would eventually receive retribution for what she had done. 1.5 months later, Gu Shengyin finally received the news. Su Jiao was dead. It was said that in the dark, she broke the cup she was drinking from against the wall and slit her wrist. Because it was discovered too late, she lost too much blood. It was said that the scene was quite bloody. Originally, Xiao Long wanted to destroy the corpse and the evidence, but Gu Shengyin took action at this time. She didn't intend to let Su Jiao go, let alone Xiao Long. The witness and material evidence were conclusive. This adulterous couple could continue to go to the netherworld and torture themselves. Everything was over. However, Gu Shengyin looked at her parents who had obviously aged a lot, and she felt a little guilty. The only thing she felt sorry for was this couple. She glanced at her husband beside her, and then at her parents who were not far away. She would spend the rest of her life being a good wife, a good mother, and a good daughter. This world was over. By the way, the story of this world actually had a prototype, and it was not an isolated phenomenon. Perhaps because it was close to the end, I was very anxious and felt that no matter how I wrote it, it would be wrong. I was not very satisfied with the ending of this story, but I really tried my best. Finally, to answer the question of the ending, baby, in the main part of this story, there will be content of 2 worlds. After that, there will be some other worlds. Chapter 2065. It was dark all around. Gu Shengyin could not open her eyes. She could roughly sense that she seemed to be in a huge sealed space. She could not breathe, did not need to breathe, and her 5 senses were weak. She had consciousness, but it seemed to be completely bound to this body. "System," she called out. Fortunately, the system's voice sounded. "Host." Gu Shengyin breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "What's going on with this world?" As soon as she finished speaking, a message rushed into her mind. Because her consciousness was somewhat muddled, even her thinking speed slowed down. After reading the entire plot, Gu Shengyin breathed out. Strictly speaking, she was now a corpse, and the environment she was in was the tomb that the original body had built for herself a few thousand years ago. Perhaps, it would be more appropriate to describe it as a sealed place. Huang Tian, the youngest and most powerful great sage in the history of the Phoenix clan. Under her leadership, the Phoenix clan was a famous first-rate clan in the entire Tianxian continent. When the Phoenix clan's reputation was at its peak, Huang Tian suddenly foresaw an ominous future when she was offering sacrifices. 30 years later, the Phoenix clan's earth veins had a problem. Their foundation collapsed, and their ancestral land fell. This series of unforeseen events caused the entire Phoenix clan to fall from a first-rate clan to a second-rate clan in a short 10 years. They were bullied and ridiculed countless times. Huang Tian, who had devoted her life to revitalizing her clan, naturally could not stand by and do nothing. After searching through countless ancient books but to no avail, she finally made a decision. She would use herself, who had the purest bloodline and the strongest power in the entire Phoenix clan, as a guide to suppress the Phoenix clan's earth veins. What level had Huang Tian's cultivation reached? In the Tianxian continent, cultivation of profound qi was the main focus. The realms were divided into profound practitioner, profound master, profound king, profound ancestor, profound venerable, and profound sage. There was also the legendary profound god realm, which could live as long as the heavens and earth. And Huang Tian had already taken that step. If the change in the earth veins had come a few hundred years later, she would have completely entered the profound god realm and would not have to be afraid of this problem. Unfortunately, the timing was too coincidental. She could only use the array as a guide and seal herself within it to suppress the Phoenix clan's earth veins. Now, 1,000 years had passed. The great calamity of the Phoenix clan had already been forcefully suppressed by Huang Tian. The Phoenix clan was still a famous first-rate clan in the Tianxian land. Huang Tian's resting place had always been the sacred ground of the Phoenix clan. No one had ever thought that this great sage who had once done so much for the Phoenix clan had not truly died. If nothing unexpected happened, Huang Tian might continue to sleep in this sealed place for another 1,000 years. Until a grave robber broke the silence. That female mysterious sect called Chan Xiaoxiao, in this world, is a professional tomb robber who makes a living by robbing tombs. Her code name was Yi Sha, and she was considered to be one of the most famous people in the profound sky continent. Moreover, she had a habit of not falling unless it was a large tomb. She would not patronize ordinary tombs at all. The target she chose this time was the sacred ground of the Phoenix clan. It could be said that he was quite bold. For such a large clan, it would be a great humiliation if their sacred ground was stolen. At that time, Chen Xiaoxiao would definitely face the full pursuit of the entire Phoenix clan. Chapter 2066. However, Chen Xiaoxiao was already wanted by several clans. Perhaps it was because she had too many debts to bear. To her, one more or one less made no difference. Yi Sha was not short of money. She only enjoyed the pleasure of personally lifting the veil of the great tomb, as well as the feeling of superiority when she angered those great clans and watched them be helpless. She found Huang Tian's tomb. The restrictions and arrays of the tomb had long lost their effect under the erosion of time. Chen Xiaoxiao did not encounter any danger along the way. She also found Huang Tian lying in a 10,000-year-old ice coffin, whose face had not changed for thousands of years. She was immediately astonished and wanted to take the coffin out with her. She did not know where she touched, but just like that, the weak seal on Huang Tian's body was broken. Huang Tian woke up. Thousands of years of sleep had made her mind very messy, and her limbs had deteriorated to the point that she could barely move. She instinctively wanted to attack this outsider. Chen Xiaoxiao could be considered to have narrowly escaped death. Although this zombie in front of her could not move, she was not easy to deal with. She did not know what cultivation level she had been when she was alive, but her attack could not even hurt her. Chen Xiaoxiao, who had almost fallen into despair, suddenly remembered the cultivation method she had been practicing when she was young. She had to try everything she could. She did not know what kind of luck she had encountered, but Chen Xiaoxiao had succeeded. She, a profound ancestor, had relied on a secret method to absorb more than half of the cultivation of a half-step divine spirit realm expert above the profound sage realm. Huang Tian did not die because of her cultivation level that was close to that of a god. Once this was lost, the power of time showed. Chen Xiaoxiao watched as this peerless beauty turned into a shriveled old woman in front of her. Then, she turned into a pile of bones and finally turned into ashes. Only a long robe made of an unknown material was left on the ground. As for her, she had almost died from the explosion of her cultivation base. But she had almost died. After all, she had not died. Not only had she not died, but she had also benefited from this disaster. She had spent 20 years refining Huang Tian's power and broke through from the profound ancestor realm to the profound sage realm. A profound sage was already the strongest expert in the entire profound sky continent. The first thing Chen Xiaoxiao did after she succeeded was to take revenge. He wanted to take revenge on those families that had once hunted him down and injured him. The Phoenix clan was naturally among them. His cultivation had been absorbed by someone else and used to harm the family he had protected with all his heart. Even if he died, Huang Tian would not die in peace. Gu Shengyin came back to her senses. A tear fell from the corner of her tightly shut eyes. This was Huang Tian's emotion. Huang Tian's stubbornness vanished along with the teardrop. The one who stayed behind was Gu Shengyin, her replacement. "Can I wake up earlier?" Gu Shengyin asked. If Huang Tian could wake up earlier and adapt to his new body, then even Chen Xiaoxiao would only be sending herself to death. The system's white light flashed. "That depends on your ability, host." In fact, Gu Shengyin's arrival in this world was already considered a cheat. The reason why Huang Tian could not wake up was not only because no one had broken the seal here, but also because thousands of years of sleep had caused Huang Tian's consciousness to be in a state of disorientation. Gu Shengyin's arrival had directly skipped this step. What she needed to do now was to break the seal before Chen Xiaoxiao arrived. "Today is a visit from relatives, so I can't stay up late. 5 chapters. Tomorrow 7 chapters. Ha. Good night, everyone." In addition, the V group and welfare group will stop joining at 12 p.m. tonight. Red packets will be given out tomorrow at noon. If you have enough fan points, remember to join the group and receive red packets. Chapter 2067. System. Draw skills. Gu Shengyin was speechless. She was speechless when she saw the results. She knew that most of the skills were useless. For example, the improved affinity halo that came from the Elven Queen. Effect. Increase the initial favorability of others by 30%. In short, it was very useful when it came to face recognition. But what was the use of this for Huang Tian? The system even comforted her. "Don't be upset. With the abilities of the female lead in this world, she doesn't need any assistance." She was someone who stood at the top of the world. Thinking about it, that was indeed the case. Now, there were only 2 months left until Chen Xiaoxiao arrived at this sealed land. In these 2 months, she had to find a way to completely break the seal and gain control of this body. Gu Shengyin immediately closed her eyes. Her body was very heavy. Although her consciousness was clear, the power of her soul was extremely scattered. It was as if there was no way to gather it together. She had no control over her body at all. In this situation, she couldn't even open her eyes, let alone break the seal. Gu Shengyin gritted her teeth. She could only rely on her powerful soul power to forcibly gather the power of her soul that had been scattered for thousands of years. This process was very uncomfortable. Almost every time she moved those souls, Gu Shengyin's mind would spin for a long time. Fortunately, this body couldn't move at all. Otherwise, Gu Shengyin was really worried that she would vomit. Time passed slowly in this situation. In the beginning, Gu Shengyin could occasionally chat with the system and observe the progress of the process. Later, she grasped some tricks and became more and more proficient in gathering the scattered souls. Gradually, her entire body and mind were immersed in it. At a certain place far away, a woman with sharp and ruthless eyes had already set her sights on this region. I heard that the Phoenix clan has a sacred land that no one except the core members can enter. The woman stuck out her tongue and licked her bright red lips. She smiled seductively. I want to see what treasures are in this sacred land. Success! Gu Shengyin was overjoyed. At the same time, in the ice coffin in the holy land of the Phoenix clan, the corpse that had been sleeping quietly for thousands of years suddenly opened its eyes. Gu Shengyin saw her surroundings for the first time. It wasn't as dark and gloomy as she had imagined. On the contrary, it was rather bright. Because she was lying down, Gu Shengyin could only see several large luminous pearls embedded in the high dome. Rather than a graveyard, it looked more like a magnificent palace. Gu Shengyin sensed that her body was very stiff at the moment. Just as she was about to move, a faint sound came from beside her. At the same time, a system notification sounded, "Host, you're awake? This world's mission target has appeared." 2 months had passed. Before he could speak to the system, the door to this gorgeous tomb that had not been touched by anyone for thousands of years suddenly opened. Chen Xiaoxiao, dressed in black, appeared at the entrance of the tomb. Her eyes widened in shock. This is actually not a sacred land. Rather, it is the treasure vault of the Phoenix clan, right? She looked around with great interest and her gaze was attracted by something on the high platform. Chapter 2068. It was a square-shaped container. She could not tell what material it was made of. From afar, it looked transparent. However, she could not see what was inside. Intuition told Chen Xiaoxiao that the thing inside should be the core of this sacred place. This intuition had allowed Chen Xiaoxiao to obtain countless treasures. It had also allowed her to avoid fatal pursuits many times. She secretly operated the profound qi inside her body and let it circulate through her entire body. Step by step, she approached that high platform. She knew that the square-shaped container was imprinted in her eyes. Hiss! Chen Xiaoxiao drew in a breath of cold air. This was clearly a coffin. Chen Xiaoxiao's gaze was completely attracted by the figure inside the coffin. She believed that she had traveled all over the Tianxian land for so many years. Yet, she had never seen a person with such grace as the one before her. Regardless of gender, the woman lying inside the coffin wore a silver-white long robe. On it, a phoenix and cloud pattern were embroidered with silk threads of the same color. Even until now, the Phoenix clan's usual clothes were embroidered with these two patterns. Chen Xiaoxiao's attention fell on that face. Even with her mental state of the Xian sect, her mind could not help but waver. Too beautiful. Her facial features, her brows and eyes, not a single part of it was not meticulously drawn. Every detail was perfect. However, the most moving thing about the woman before her was not her beauty, but her grace. The beauty of a person's appearance was in the form. Although it could make people sigh in admiration, it could not make people shocked. However, the woman in front of him was simply lying down, but she gave him the illusion that her body was glowing. He couldn't help but have the urge to worship her. Chen Xiaoxiao could not help but wonder how such a person looked like when she was alive. Looking at her clothing, this person did not seem to be from this era. Could it be that she was one of the ancestors of the Phoenix clan? As she thought about it, her hands unconsciously landed on that cold ice coffin. A bold thought emerged in her mind. If she took away the corpse of this ancestor of the Phoenix clan and claimed it as her own, those arrogant fellows of the Phoenix clan would most likely go crazy, right? Chen Xiaoxiao, who was immersed in her fantasy, did not realize that from the moment her hand touched the cold ice coffin, the ice that should have been immortal for tens of thousands of years started to crack bit by bit. Crack! Chen Xiaoxiao suddenly came back to her senses. After realizing what had happened, she raised her speed to the limit and retreated rapidly. At the same time, the large ice coffins exploded one after another. Chen Xiaoxiao suddenly felt a great sense of panic. It felt as if she was being stared at by an extremely terrifying, ferocious beast. If he didn't leave, he would die. She suddenly had such a clear understanding. Be decisive. Chen Xiaoxiao didn't say a word and shot out of the sacred grounds. However, her movements came to a halt in midair. There seemed to be an invisible wall in front of her, blocking her movements. Not only that, Chen Xiaoxiao also noticed that the composition of the air seemed to have changed. An invisible energy surrounded her. In this kind of environment, the profound energy in her body was like ice and snow meeting the scorching sun, and was rapidly melting away at a terrifying speed. The situation was very bad. A word fell heavily on her heart. Domain. Chapter 2069. Apart from a domain, what else could have such power? Could it be that the Phoenix clan was so abnormal that they actually sent a profound sage powerhouse to protect their holy land? A domain was the symbol of a profound sage powerhouse. The domain of a profound sage powerhouse was within their absolute control. Within a domain, the owner of the domain was the absolute ruler. Chen Xiaoxiao clenched her teeth and turned around. The scene in front of her caused her to break out in cold sweat. At this moment, the ice coffin had already disappeared. In its place was a figure standing there. Chen Xiaoxiao was not unfamiliar with this figure at all. Because not long ago, she had looked at her condescendingly and sighed at her rare beauty. At that time, Chen Xiaoxiao had still secretly felt that it was a pity. Who knew how magnificent such a person would be when she opened her eyes? But at this moment, when she truly saw her, she was not in the mood to marvel at her beauty. Killing intent. Chen Xiaoxiao could clearly feel the killing intent coming from the profound sage powerhouse opposite her. Chen Xiaoxiao was filled with regret. If she had known that there was a profound sage powerhouse lying in the holy land of the Phoenix clan, even if she was given 100 guts, she would never have dared to come. Her mind spun rapidly, thinking about how to obtain a chance of survival in such a situation. But reality did not give her much chance to react. Chen Xiaoxiao looked at the profound sage powerhouse who was so beautiful that she did not seem like a mortal. She stretched out her hand, and a huge palm shadow quickly condensed behind her. A terrifying pressure directly pressed down on her. Before Chen Xiaoxiao could escape, the huge palm swiftly and violently slapped down on her. She could not avoid it. Chen Xiaoxiao closed her eyes in despair. Gu Shangyin indifferently looked at the bold grave robber who had lost his life in her hands. After confirming that the system had reminded her that the target had died, her body suddenly trembled. Her expression changed, and she seemed to be unable to bear something. She struggled to support herself on the high platform behind her to prevent herself from collapsing. He had just broken through the seal and had to use such a powerful cultivation technique. For this stiff body of his, the pressure was still too much. After resting for a while, Gu Shengyin stretched out her hand and moved a praying mat over, then slowly sat down. She knew that it wouldn't be long before someone came looking for her. If the Huang clan was unable to detect such a huge change in the clan's sacred ground, then there was nothing for Huang Tian to be reluctant to leave such an idiot clan. In fact, the people of the Phoenix clan had arrived earlier than Gu Shengyin had expected. Furthermore, the people who came were all important figures of the Phoenix clan. Gu Shengyin looked at the members of the Phoenix clan who were wearing black robes with golden embroidery. She combined them with her memories of Huang Tian and came to a conclusion. Yes, after a few thousand years, the aesthetics of the Tianxian land had changed greatly. Her expression was as indifferent as ever. Even when she saw so many people suddenly appear in front of her, her eyelids didn't even twitch. The members of the Phoenix clan were not as indifferent. They carefully looked at the white-robed woman sitting on the futon in front of them. Although the other party did not deliberately show off his power, they still felt a sense of suffocation. These people were all direct descendants of the Phoenix clan. During the sacrificial ceremony, many people came here before. The person in front of him. Chapter 2070. An old man who seemed to be the leader of the group stepped forward and bowed respectfully to Gu Shengyin before he began to speak. I am Elder Huang Yuan of the Phoenix clan. May I know who you are? He was actually quite hesitant in his heart. As an elder of the clan, he knew the secrets of the clan's sacred land. He also knew that there was once an outstanding ancestor who used his own flesh and blood to suppress the ancestral land in exchange for thousands of years of prosperity for the Phoenix clan. Whether it was in terms of attire or aura, the person in front of him was very similar to the one in the rumors. However, this kind of thing. Gu Shengyin raised her head and glanced at him, then said lightly, My name is Huang Tian. My name is Huang Tian? My name is Huang Tian. The others did not know that Elder Huang Yuan's legs almost went soft when he heard this. In the entire Phoenix clan's genealogy, there was only one person named Huang Tian. Could this person really be that legendary ancestor? However, this was a matter of great importance. He could only respectfully wait for the person in front of him, then crush a sparkling and translucent crescent-shaped talisman pendant in his sleeve. Ancestor Huang He, there has been an unforeseen event in the sacred land. A powerhouse in white has appeared, and he calls himself Huang Tian. This crescent-shaped talisman pendant was personally made by Ancestor Huang He, who had the highest seniority and the strongest cultivation in the Phoenix clan. Every elder above the mystique venerable rank and core disciple with the highest potential in the clan could hold one. As long as one crushed this talisman pendant, Ancestor Huang He would be able to sense it immediately and rush over as quickly as possible. Elder Huang Yuan had notified Ancestor Huang He because he was the ancestor with the highest seniority and the strongest cultivation in the entire Phoenix clan. The sacred land matter was of great importance, so it was only right to inform the ancestor. Secondly, Ancestor Huang He was also the one with the longest lifespan in the entire Phoenix clan. He could be considered to be from the same generation as the legendary ancestor Huang Tian. Huang Yuan could not be sure whether the white-robed woman's words were true or false, so he naturally needed to find a powerhouse who could confirm her identity. Ancestor Huang He arrived very quickly. Gu Shengyin saw Elder Huang Yuan's actions clearly. She didn't feel that she had been neglected. Instead, she felt gratified by Elder Huang Yuan's vigilance. Gu Shengyin would be disappointed if Huang Yuan believed her just because she said that she was the old ancestor of her family. A green figure appeared at the entrance of the Holy Land. It was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 30s. His eyes were calm and carried a trace of coldness. Seeing this middle-aged man, all the members of the Phoenix clan bowed and greeted him. Greetings, Patriarch. The green-robed man's gaze was not on them at all. He stared at Gu Shengyin and calmly looked back at her face. His eyes flashed with disbelief, shock, and excitement. "And Huang Tian, is it really you?" His voice seemed to be trembling. If one listened carefully, there seemed to be a slight tremor in his voice. However, the rest of the Phoenix clansmen didn't have the mood to pay attention to their ancestor's voice. They were all shocked by the content of their ancestor's words. And Huang Tian? After all, thousands of years had passed, and some of the clansmen did not even know the name Huang Tian. However, everyone had heard their own ancestor call her aunt loud and clear. At that moment, countless shocked gazes turned to Gu Shengyin. Ancestor Huang He's aunt. How many years had this white-robed powerhouse lived? Fourth night. Third night. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.